Hello and welcome back to Raw 12:51 AM's coverage of the Warwick SU Spring Elections. I'm here with Max, who wants to be your society's officer for the next year. We're just going to be asking him a few questions about why he thinks he'd be the best fit for the role. So, Max, just to start off, what are your key manifesto pledges?
Hi, William. Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to have a lovely conversation with you and hopefully shed a little bit of light on my campaign and why you should pick me. So, when it comes to my key manifesto pledges, you might have seen the little slogan on my manifesto that says affordable, accountable, and accessible. Definitely using a bit of a rule of three alliteration there. But what that really means is I want to freeze society's federation fee, enlarge the federation fee exemption application window. So you've got a bunch of societies that want to be exempt from the federation fee, but a lot of them aren't aware when the window opens and closes. That needs to be better publicised and enlarged. Slashing red tape for small expense requests. At the moment, we've got a lot of execs being left out of pocket for months. Better publicising the VP Sox's office hours to make sure that if an exec needs to talk to me, or even just a general society member, or anyone needs to have a conversation, they need to know when I'm available to have that conversation. And also lengthening the new society application window. We want every society to cater for students. If there's not one that already suits your interest, there should be a new one. But obviously, if the window's too small, we don't get through enough new societies. I want to supercharge support. To do that, I want a new information maintenance framework for exec handovers, a new first aid training session, which should be available to all, not just exec members, particularly welfare officers, a new alumni discussion forum, and revamping SU exec resources, including specifically new role summaries, like job descriptions, as well as FAQs on these roles. When it comes to powerful promotion, I want some charities and culture society weeks, which will be a bit like Welcome Week to a smaller scale, but we'll still have a Welcome Week style event timetable, which you will have been familiar with during Welcome Week. A flexible promotion strategy, and international and postgrad society orientation workshops. It is fairly common that international postgrad students are often less engaged societies than domestic undergrads, and to do that, orientation workshops should hopefully improve that engagement. And finally, more generally outside societies, I'm going to be batting for students and representing them at every level. Some of the key things I want to work on are fairer circling space allocations, defending bar fusion as a regular circle space. As you might be aware, it came back this year after a few years off. Refreshing POP, and having a bit of a rebrand for POP, and an online resale portal for copper rooms events tickets. The current way that we resell tickets is very, very messy, and I want to definitely clean that up a little bit.
Yeah, so as part of all of that, what would you do to increase accessibility to students in societies from marginalised communities?
Well, first of all, one of the biggest barriers to society accessibility is being from a lower socioeconomic status, and it really shouldn't be. One of the things I want to do to improve accessibility for people from lower socioeconomic statuses includes increasing the number of SOCs who are Fed fee exempt to make not paying Fed fee a realistic option for some students. Most importantly, advertising the fact that there are SOCs that are exempt and encouraging the SOCs that are already exempt to better publicise that fact. Even though there are a number of SOCs exempt, including 93% and RAG, students don't become aware of it until too late and either buy Fed fee without making an informed choice or assume they need one for all SOCs so don't interact with societies at all. And I also want to begin discussions around dividing Fed fee into instalments and allow widening participation students to apply for a personal federation fee exemption. I also want to make active bystander training obligations equal between sports and society execs. At the moment, every exec member of a sports club has to do active bystander training during term 3. That's not the case for societies, and it really should be. This will hopefully make people more comfortable engaging with society socials in the evening and get people believing that socks are a realistic, safe space and one can interact with them if they're not already. And also, I want more new but definitely sustainable societies. I will strive to extend the application window for new societies. However, to make them sustainable, clamping down on SOCs in breach of the 30-member rule without an exemption faster, and will make sure there are enough funds to sustain these new societies. If there is not yet a society that caters for a certain marginalised group and it can be sustainable, it should be a realistic option.
Yeah, and obviously, as part of that, especially to do with the current cost of living crisis. How would you ensure that people are further able to get involved with societies as a whole?
So in addition to what I said earlier about Fed fee exemptions, more generally, I want to aim to freeze federation fee rises. Secondly, not only getting involved, but running societies should be an option for everyone. Execs must not be left out of pocket for months when awaiting a reimbursement from an expense request they made from an event or purchased equipment. The current model is not sustainable if we want to continue growing the number of people involved with societies and especially running them. And also, we want more events such as Socks Awards and a new Charities Week, which will allow more people to interact with some of the amazing stuff we have societies doing at the moment without having to be a member.
Yeah, and as well as that, what would you do to improve the way the SU handles welfare issues between society members, either on exec or off exec?
Well, William, as I've not personally had to interact with the current process of how the SU handles welfare issues between society exec members, I'm not speaking from experience. However, as a welfare officer myself, I did not receive training on how this process works, and I believe it is vital that in exec training after handovers at socks and sports forums and conferences, it is vital that there is more transparent discussion of how SU processes actually work, so that we can realistically expect execs to navigate them. There should be also more advice in president training on what exec group chats are for and what they're not for. Increasingly, execs hold less meetings and more frequently make decisions by group chat, especially with smaller societies. It's important to recognise this shift and to take a stance on whether execs should be transparent internally when settling disputes, or whether presidents should encourage members to interact further in a private manner. When these distinctions are made and in which method is more effective is known, hopefully the SU will have to deal with less internal disputes and be able to focus on more pressing welfare issues.
Yeah, and as well as obviously you mentioned welfare issues there, and with an increase in spiking of reported incidents of sexual assault, how would you ensure that members are kept safe during society events, be they socials or any other sort of event societies may hold?
Well, in events, safety is really important to me. I want to get as many people involved in society events as possible, and to aid in doing that is a priority to make sure attendees feel safe. So, in events officer training, I would encourage events officers to ensure there's a sober exec member at every event. As mentioned earlier, every exec member should have to do active bystander training during term 3. But all these changes, even in previous questions, mean nothing if people aren't aware that they're happening. A progress bar similar to the one that SEOs use at the Cardiff Students' Union is really important, not only for SU transparency, but also to create a narrative that real change is happening to make students feel safer. Additionally, shifting the focus of the Warwick SU social media pages towards more bluntly the work of the student officers will help aid in alleviating the feelings the SU doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and obviously there are larger and smaller societies as well. So how would you ensure that smaller societies that don't have as many members, are equally supported by the student union?
Well, first of all, we shouldn't just assume bigger societies are better supported by the SU. Support is more than simply financial and funding. Those societies who tangibly receive the most support are those who usually engage the most with the SU. If we don't know the best way societies want to be supported, it's much harder to do our job. I'll strive to build a rapport with every society president within the first 6 months of my term as to gauge what kind of support societies are looking for, both big and small. However, what I can shed light on is new societies, as there is likely more of a divide between new and older established societies than there is between big and small. New societies do not have the same level of internal knowledge of which channels to use to get the right support and knowledge for how to deal with certain situations. That's why it's of the utmost importance that I will be focused on nurturing new societies as they get on their feet in the autumn, many of whom I interviewed myself this year. Some already have a large amount of student engagement, but need guidance on navigating SU structures. Others are smaller from the off-go, but are looking for accelerated growth and are eager to learn from better versed members of society's committee. So whilst there are definitely distinctions between small and large when it comes to support, those distinctions are far smaller overall than between new and old, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, no, that does. And finally, what makes you stand out from other societies officer candidates that may be running for the role?
Well, I'm not really allowed to negatively campaign, so I'm not going to speak about the other candidates, but there are a few things that likely make me stand out. I'm the only SOX committee member in the running. I have first-hand experience interacting with aspiring new societies already. I'm aware of the various options for societies to gain extra funding and support through tricky patches such as the Emergency Hardship Fund. I'm an engaged candidate already looking to build a rapport with anyone who wants to talk. I attended question time. I sent a statement into the board. Heck, I had an open discussion with Real L last night in their group chat. Um, I'm aiming to be everywhere and visible and will continue to be if elected. I'm trying to show that, what that could look like now, although obviously with a slightly different tone, considering it's currently an election. I have as much experience with sports clubs as I do with societies, so I want to bring over initiatives and ideas from sports clubs and see how they can improve the running of societies and vice versa. And finally, I have a huge priority in smoothing the transition between execs for both stocks and sports year by year. This includes better information transparency and management, as well as a new alumni network. And finally, unlike anyone else, I'm going to take societies to the max.
Yep, thank you, Max, for taking part in this interview. We do have other interviews that are available for all the other candidates that have chosen to take them up. So make sure to watch them. Make sure to vote on Friday, or make sure to vote this week. Sorry, and then on Friday, make sure to watch our coverage as we reveal who your next SU team will be.
Thank you, William. Bye.